Like, before we start this interview...
Right. It should be like breakfast. Every time you start, like,
Yes.
okay, get ready to go. All right, now I'm good.
Yeah. Oh, I'm at work. I just made it to work.
Yep. Oh, we got to go to an after-work function. All right, now I'm good. Hey, Internet. It's Paul. It's Matt, the Dork Lords. We are here talking about Lovecraft Country, Season 1, Episode 5, Strange Case. The title comes from The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which
presumably
one would assume refers to Ruby in this episode, although you could also say it refers to Christina in this episode. And maybe if you're talking about a double life, maybe a Montrose, perhaps. I don't know. That's a bit of a reach, but I would say Ruby is your primary example.
Might have been transforming, you know.
Yeah. So our opening and closing of the episode, we open on Ruby waking up after a night with William to see that she's a white woman. In fact, she is. I don't know how they made this work necessarily, but she's the sheriff from Ardham back in episode 2. I mean, she's not. She has the mentality, the brain of Ruby, but the covering of the woman who had the like shotgun or whatever. She was like, "I got dogs and they'll eat you if you come in here." Whatever. That woman, I think Letty hit her with a shovel. Anyway.
Oh yeah.
Maybe she died, and then I don't know. Christina took her. I don't know. We don't know exactly how that worked out, but somehow
we don't.
Probably not good for that sheriff, I'm going to guess. Whatever occurred that her body is now being used in Chicago is probably not good.
Merely have been like, all right, so this part is just that I have to be in a farm and then someone hits me in the head. No, you can also be a black woman pretending to be a white woman.
All right, sign me up. And we end with... unsurprisingly, if you were in on our last recap, William transforming into Christina.
Yes.
And so, yes, we called it. Whatever. Yay.
I feel like they were trying for a humorous beat there, and I think they could have tried a little harder.
All right. So be it.
I feel like, you had this point where William is changing into Christina.
Yep.
And you see that happening, and that's clearly horrific. But it's not a foreign concept to Ruby. But perhaps they want to maybe give a little bit more time in between the end of that event and her being perhaps stunned, and you thinking, is she going to scream, or is she going to...
She was like, you've been William the whole time?
Yes. That could have had a little more, and then a close-up, just so it could have been just that, so you wouldn't have been thinking about anything else except what is her reaction.
It just is primarily a Ruby episode.
Yes.
With, I would say, maybe the subplot would be Montrose. Atticus and Letty are kind of at the periphery, I would say.
I mean, they're setting stakes for the next, stuff,
Yeah, we do see the trailer for next week is a flashback, apparently, episode to when Atticus was in Korea, it seems like, with Jia.
And it seems like from the... it's quite a lot of Jia.
Yeah, well, now, I had made a prediction, because we saw Jia, or a version of her, a fantasy version of her, fighting Atticus back in episode 2. And from that and the IMDb description, we were guessing that she is a nurse during World War II. He's maybe an injured soldier. And she is maybe not all she seems. That she is some kind of eldritch Lovecraftian creation, and for whatever reason is maybe killing off some of the wounded soldiers in her care. And perhaps, for whatever reason, we find out that, because Atticus says he did stuff he's not proud of, I think maybe he sides with her for some reason. And we see that he cares for her.
Yeah, we do.
So, anyway, we'll find out what that's all about. But the way that hooks into this episode is, at the very end of the episode, Atticus he's deciphering those pages of Adam. He's made a couple of... he's deciphered a few words. One of them is die. Yeah. Okay, great. And he calls up Gia, and he's like, how did you know? Or something like that. And So she had obviously prophesized that what he would be reading in the Book of Names, I guess, at some point. The one particularly impactful thing from Atticus and Letty is that Atticus almost kills his dad when he finds out that Montrose killed Yahima. Right? Letty doesn't get it. He's like, Montrose says she's gone. Atticus knows what that means. Letty doesn't. And so Atticus is like, how dare you? And he's beating him up, and he has to get pulled off. And Letty is scared in that moment of Atticus.
Yes.
Thinking like, whoa, boy, you really let your dad have it just for sending Yahima away. It's like, maybe he murdered her, but okay. Anyway.
And destroying those, the sheets as well, which that's the point in which you kind of see him confront her.
Yeah, good point.
In a manner where perhaps she could have been afraid, but she was willing to stand up to him at that point, and he had to catch himself.
Yes, and she's taking photos of the pages. That's why they can still translate them. Now, she makes this interesting case, and I think it is a question posed to the audience, which is, hey, is all this magic turning us evil? And Atticus is like, he says, no, it's not. It's what we do with it. I side with Atticus on this. I do think, though, we're kind of led to this thing of like, well, look, Ruby does this pretty violent, terrible thing at the end of this episode, and
well, they're not talking about that. But one thing she says, Montrose killed someone. Yeah,
and Atticus,
but he wasn't using magic to do it.
No, and Atticus is has this bout of rage that Letty sees and is obviously taken aback by. But I would say,
and he reveals that it sort of developed the capacity for rage because of his abuse.
Yep.
And even though he swore he would never be like that, once he was in the war, he found that element inside himself.
A history of violence
which feels like what he was struggling with, before, in feeling kind of horrified by what he had become. During the war.
So I think what we're seeing is they're not necessarily magic related. These are aspects of these people. Ruby had this genuine feeling for revenge, essentially, at the manager guy at the very end of this episode.
Yes.
It's not necessarily because of the magic. The magic helps her accomplish her goal, but...
Right, and that may be, you could certainly argue that's a part of Christina's seduction.
Right.
Of her, is by giving her a chance to sort of see what power can give her.
Right. So, Christina / William has given this vial to Ruby that allows her to become Ardham Sheriff at will, but it also has a timeline. It seems to wear out after a few hours. I don't think she can get to a whole day without having to retake the stuff.
It does, we haven't really seen a test of it. The times when we have seen William, it has been for very long. I generally don't like... once you have to really explicit with the rules, like, how much time to the clock on her wrist or whatever.
Was it Dark Man? Remember, it was like he had a very specific amount of time. They're like, my face.
Yes.
But here it's like, of all the things you could do if you were like, look, I can totally take on a different personality temporarily.
Yes.
Maybe getting a full-time job is not the thing you do. It's like the one area where you're like, oh, wait, I have to be here every day for the rest of my life and try to be this person. And I'm like, maybe. Well,
I guess you have to take a number of vials, because it's just she doesn't time it very well though. It's like, excuse me, I should go to the bathroom now before my body starts changing.
Right. She was in the middle of the interview, like, that's it.
Should have before we start this interview.
Right. It should be like breakfast. Every time you start, okay, get ready to go. All right, now I'm good.
I'm at work. I just made it to work.
Yep. We got to go to an after work function. All right, now I'm good. But she didn't. I mean, I'm like, that's the one thing is that it's temporary.
Maybe she had a few on her, because I thought that was going to be it for her when she was in the interview and left that vial and went to the bathroom and then seemed to be changing, like, what is she going to break out of her clothes and then walk around naked? But no, she just had a little period of time and they cut.
Yeah. Like, how did
nothing
she
happened
get out
bad.
of that? Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe she had one, and she was like, "Oh, this is taking a while." Like, she had another one.
It kind
of. And she went back to get her perfume.
It happened, so it happened. But like, how did she get out of the department store? Like after basically sodomizing the manager or whatever, doing this, and she's and she's practically naked and bleeding. Like, right. You're like, okay, you're in a giant public building. Like, how do you just stroll out? Do you grab something off the shelf? I don't know. Anyway, it's one of those like, we get it. Yeah. It's not that important. Move on, kind of thing.
Presumably, maybe what she did was she changed back so she could have this period where it's like, one, he might be less likely to complain to the police because what's the story he's going to tell?
That's true. Oh, she changed. Yeah.
Yeah. And perhaps two, it's like, okay, I've changed now, but then I'm going to take more of the thing in order to get out of here, maybe, or maybe she had her clothes there that she could change into,
She did. She probably thought ahead. She probably did. I think
she's like, I know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
I'm going to get some shoe.
So
apparently, stilettos historically had just been released.
Okay. Well, and she used them to interesting effect.
Yes, exactly. Like, these are quite handy.
So we find out that Christina / William has presented this gift to Ruby. With strings attached, and the favor comes up pretty quickly. Like, I'll ask a favor of you. Okay, I need the favor. I was like, is it like years from now? Oh, tomorrow. Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, she's not like Vito Corleone.
Right. So the favor is she's supposed to plant some device. I couldn't tell exactly what it was, but some kind of a spell token of some kind in the office of that the Chicago cop lodge master guy.
Yeah, and they mentioned the orrery in there.
Yes, they did. That certainly is, maybe not next week, but that's coming up.
Yeah,
for sure. Well, one of the things that was interesting when she's hiding in the closet with this like Frankenstein's monster guy, trying to be quiet while the lodge master's out there.
Yes.
We see the lodge master. It's very deliberate. He takes his shirt off so we can see that his torso is dark-skinned. And now I couldn't get close enough to see if it was tattoos or what, but I'm guessing.
I didn't even know. I was so distracted by all the
No, but he's
got dead people.
Something is different there, and I have a feeling it's regarding the experiments that Hiram Epstein was running in the building. I think because he's kind of like, it looks like he's maybe different parts of different people, perhaps. Anyway,
interesting.
So that was just something. I mean, the reason that they had him take off the shirt was obviously to show us that.
Yes.
So that's a thing. Also, just to note, William's got this. William / Christine has this odd. I don't know what it is. A brand. It's a mark. Looks like almost like wings or something on the chest.
Oh, right.
I'm just wondering if that is what's giving William / Christina immortality. Maybe that's like, look, it's my, whatever.
Right.
So.
Or is it immortality? Not immortality, it's invisibility.
Okay. What? Describe the difference.
Well, one's live forever, one's you can't destroy me, but that doesn't mean you can't die, say, of natural causes or something.
Okay. Gotcha. You think perhaps she could age?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, because, like, you think of it, her father wanted immortality, so why would he crave something that she had?
Well, interesting, too, we do hear some extra info when Christina's talking about William, but it's her, that William was shot in the back, apparently, by the folks in the Chicago Lodge, and, like, basically run out. So I'm guessing maybe it was Christine that was run out because she was a woman, perhaps, and shot. I don't know. Anyway, but they couldn't kill her because she's invincible. We also had theorized that Montrose was gay. That is confirmed in this episode. After getting beaten to a pulp by his son, he kind of seeks solace with his love interest, I guess. And.
Yeah, they make a big deal about how he deals with who he is and how he's not able to be intimate by kissing him.
Right.
And so that's what happens at the end, and that he, after sort of relishing, I think, perhaps in who he is, he's able to, to be intimate that way.
Right, and he also
person that he's been involved with.
We see
Sammy,
thank you. So yeah, there's this, this moment where they're in a club, and it's kind of like a safe space, essentially, where Montrose can actually can drop the guard and just enjoy this moment. He kind of stands with his arms out,
right,
and he's lifted up almost like a Christ figure. I'm like, oh, does that mean he's dying at some point? That's almost like a Madding thing. Like, when you get lifted up as a Christ figure, get ready. But he has a moment of maybe pure joy.
Yes, maybe.
So get ready.
Yeah, right.
No one can experience joy.
I thought you were saying a Madden thing, like the football player.
Oh, yeah, no. Maybe? I don't know. No, but that's usually like a foretelling that perhaps that character's days are numbered. But
yeah, I mean, perhaps the episode wherein, if you're right about your time travel theory, and we see Atticus go back in time to that moment, when he saves George and Montrose.
Yep.
Maybe then he's able to come to terms with some of that. I mean, one of the themes, that I was hearing discussed by, I was mentioning the podcast that the one of the writers and another person do, as they talked about Montrose's legacy of violence, how when his son attacked him, he didn't fight back. And it wasn't something they discussed too, that Sammy discussed, was like, it's happening again. Oh, is this, was it the N-words or crackers? Is that he's clearly had a life where he's been buffeted about. So yeah, I mean, and perhaps because of who he was, and maybe that's why his father was beating him. We don't know. I guess perhaps he.
I think that's certainly right. I think we saw back in episode 2 this reference to he used to go down to welcome in the Negro League baseball players when they would come into town until his dad beat the living hell out of him, and so I think put 2 and 2 together. I think it's his dad was like, you can't be gay.
Right. Yeah. So it might lead to him being mad at.
One of the things about this episode that's a major theme is how Ruby, in her guise as a white woman, interacts with her fellow employees. One of them is black, several of them are white, but she's not Ruby. She's this other, and so she's experiencing what that sense of privilege might be like, but on the other hand is also still, at heart she is Ruby, and so it's an interesting interplay there. I thought that was interesting the way that.
Oh yeah. And they, a lot of themes in there about her being critical of what is it, Tamara?
Yeah.
Because we don't learn until the end of the series that or the end of the episode, that she was probably hired because the supervisor was attracted to her, and so he just wanted to put her in a position where she was be willing to be manipulated by him, and so even though it was frustrating for Ruby because Tamara wasn't anywhere near as qualified as she is, and she gets the job.
Right, which made Ruby resent her.
Yeah. Be critical, even though the women that worked under her, the white women, couldn't understand. They weren't criticizing her from the same place. It was just, it was like the more she learned about how bigoted everyone was, the less she felt comfortable in her role.
Well, right, and to hear her talk to Tamara, but have the guise of a white woman. So when she's saying stuff like, you have to be better than them, da 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 da, it comes off as pretty cruel. coming from someone who's white. Right. Anyway, it's just interesting.
Right, yeah, because she didn't have the presence to really be a mentor, right? She could only sort of... I mean, she was under stress herself. She didn't feel comfortable there. And so, seeing this woman who, is there, but she doesn't have to make the sacrifice that Ruby is making. In fact, doesn't seem to have made any sacrifices at all. That's just more than she could bear.
Yep. So this episode is maybe the least Lovecraftian that we've had so far. Not to say that any of these have to be... Lovecraft's in the title, but obviously this show is just using Lovecraft as a springboard to talk about racial issues. So it's not like it's, love. But, so I had to kind of dig a little bit to find a quote that I thought was appropriate for this week. But I did find one, and it's more about, again, maybe an overarching theme. We see a little bit of Lovecraft's past in this quote, and also it talks about dreams, which there is this one moment where Atticus is having the dream of being on fire himself as he's following Hannah, I believe, out of the Artem house. I was interpreting that dream to mean he's worried about Letty's comment, which is this turning us evil? Like, am I becoming, the fires of hell, are they consuming me because I'm pursuing magic, perhaps? So anyway, so this is about Lovecraft and his dreams of childhood and how they turned into his life as a racist author. All right, here we go. This is from a letter he wrote.
Okay.
It is in dreams that I have known the real clutch of stark, hideous, maddening, paralyzing fear. My infant nightmares were classics, and in them there is not an abyss of agonizing cosmic horror that I have not explored. I don't have such dreams now, but the memory of them will never leave me. It is undoubtedly from them that the darkest and most gruesome side of my fictional imagination is derived. So you're like, damn, what kind of dreams was this kid having? I don't like infant nightmares. I mean, me as an infant, I had some infant nightmares. Let's see, I had the one where I was in a bathtub and there was a shark in the tub. That was one. I had one where I was swinging on a swing, and then I looked behind me and there was a brick wall, and I was going to swing into the brick wall. Those are not cosmic horror related. No. Did you have any infant nightmares, Paul?
None that are coming to mind.
Were they cosmic horror? Was Cthulhu coming to destroy you in your crib? I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, so this guy apparently, I mean, if we take him at his word from this letter, but he had some amazing cosmic horror related dreams as a infant, and they affected his writing from then on. Anyway.
Okay.
All right, good on you, sir. He had some issues, I think.
Yes.
As we covered Christina, so I still feel like the point of her sneaking this object into the lodge, and we see now that she was kicked out of the lodge, or shot to get out of it, that she's attempting to either gain control of it or get revenge on that lodge. I think it's a control thing. I think she wants to...
Yeah, I would assume.
To emerge and take control.
Perhaps through her dogs that she was there to give birth to. Although I also wondered if somehow that's involved with the transformation part of it. Because one thing, like after the first transformation that Ruby goes through,
that's a very
William
gruesome scene.
Takes the knife and seems to take something out of her.
Like cuts a body out of her. When he's like, the next time it'll be easier. As though maybe the first time, I don't know. Yeah, I wasn't.
I feel like it was what it seemed like something was slithering. So yeah, I think it was some sort of creature. Out of her.
I was thinking it was like the sheriff, but yeah, okay. You think it's like some kind of spirit, maybe, or something? Okay.
No, it was some kind of like animal.
Is
what I was thinking that allows her to change.
All right.
So it's imbued with some sort of magic, and then, or at least maybe initially, you have to take in this creature, and then once you've done that, then your body can more easily morph. That. I don't know. I'm just
like a parasite of some kind, maybe.
But it seemed like there was something going under her skin.
Right, and you see that at the end when William is becoming Christina. There's like a hand that comes up through her back, and it's like,
yeah,
So yeah, it feels humanoid, but yeah, maybe there's a.
Yeah, I don't know. I just interpreted that as, okay, I'm coming out of the body now, but...
Because he pulls a whole bunch of entrails out, and I mean, it's like...
Right, that's the first one, yeah. But after that, we don't see anything like that. So maybe that first time you have to go, that's why it's so bad. Is because you have to have this stuff ripped out of you.
Another thing I do like...
That was actually, I thought that worked rather well.
Yeah, it was grotesque in a good way. Another thing, again, that I appreciate about the show, and it did it again, is when Ruby's introduced to magic, she kind of just takes it and goes with it. It's like she sees some butterflies, and he's like, "Oh, and you take this," and she's like, "There's magic? Great, got it." We didn't have 15 minutes of, "I don't believe you." So,
yes.
Also, I did appreciate, when she first is a white woman, she's confused. She goes out.
Right.
There's the thing with the cops. She realizes suddenly she has some agency, even as a woman, as a white woman, to say, like, "Stop! No, that kid wasn't bothering me."
Well, she doesn't, though.
But then she doesn't. Exactly.
Oh, yes. Oh, in that instance, yes.
Yeah.
But then when she's in the car, of course,
that's what I like. The turnabout.
Probably the aspect of the patriarchy.
Yep. So it's like, oh, that's interesting. She's got
because for me that was like a moment where I felt like I wish they'd taken a few more passes at it when. Ruby was talking about as she was walking down the street, and people looked at her, and Christina says, like a human. It's like, it's not like she felt like, I feel respected now. They're looking at her like, this crazy white woman, what is she gonna get us killed? Is really what it was. This crazy. Why is she here?
Right.
Oh, it's only gonna cause trouble.
Here come the cops.
Somebody.
Oh God. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, but I did like that, the kind of little hierarchy thing, the little switcheroo where it was like, oh, look, I actually have the power to stop the cops from assaulting this kid. Oh, but now when I want them not to take me back, they're taking me back.
Right,
so that was kind of cool. Anyway, that's those are my thoughts, sir. Any thoughts?
No, that's pretty much
all right.
All I was thinking.
So that was Lovecraft Country, episode 5.
Yeah.
We'll be back talking about episode 6, and we're also talking episode 5 of The Boys. So come on back for that. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Paul.
Come on back now. You hear?
Indeed.
Bye.
Bye.